Miriam and Daisy claim to be twins of the spirit, stitched together by understanding instead of blood. Years had passed gently, carrying Miriam and Daisy from childhood dreams to the awakening of womanhood. A co-worker whispered to Daisy, planting doubt. I saw Mary and your man at a cafe downtown. Conrad isn't that kind of man. She tried to trust her friend and Conrad, but curiosity can gnaw at even the strongest heart. That night, Daisy drove straight to Conrad's house. She saw Mary stepping out with shopping bags. That image shattered what little calm Daisy had left. She gripped the steering wheel and whispered, "This ends tonight." The sun stretched lazily across Mavoko village rooftops. Golden rays spilled over the dusty road leading to the small primary school where Miriam and Daisy first learned to write. They were inseparable, two shadows sharing the same light. Miriam, or Mary as she was called, was quieter. She spoke with her eyes more than her lips, her heart soft and shy. Daisy, on the other hand, had a spark, bold, loud, unafraid to speak truth where silence hid. Born a day apart, they claimed to be twins of the spirit, stitched together by understanding instead of blood. In crowded classrooms filled with laughter and chalk dust, their friendship grew deep roots. They shared everything, snacks, pencils, even dreams. But Mary hid a secret wound. Every lunchtime, a classmate named Tasha cornered her behind the classroom and took what she wanted: money, fruit, biscuits, sometimes even her joy. Mary told no one. She thought it'd be better to lose her lunch than cause trouble. Then one afternoon, as the bell rang and children scattered across the schoolyard, Daisy saw it: the trembling hands, the frightened eyes, and the cruel smirk on Tasha's face. She didn't wait. With the fierce love of a sister, she marched up to Tasha, pointing a finger in her face, and said in a voice sharp enough to split the air, "Touch her again and you'll regret it." The school fell silent. From that day forward, no one dared lay a finger on Mary. That moment became legend between them. The day Daisy became her protector and Mary her peace. Yet, life has a way of testing even the strongest bonds. A few years later, in the final year of high school, when Daisy's mother fell ill and passed away, the light in her eyes dimmed. The girl who once fought for others now struggles to fight her own sorrow. But Mary, remembering courage once given to her, stood by Daisy's side. Every day after school, she carried her books to Daisy's house, taught her what she missed, and reminded her that even in grief, love still breathed. The years had passed gently, carrying Miriam and Daisy from childhood dreams to the awakening of womanhood. University life brought new faces, louder laughter, and heavier lessons, both in books and in the heart. The two girls, now women, remained bound by the same invisible thread that had tied them since the dusty days of Mavuko Primary. They shared a tiny dorm room painted with posters, secrets, and late-night talks about the future. Mary, ever the dreamer, fell deeply in love with a young man named Ken, a charming final-year student with a smooth voice and promises that melted easily in her heart. To her, he was perfection wrapped in a smile. He called her Queen, and she believed it. Daisy, always a protector, watched from the sideline with cautious eyes. But one afternoon, fate revealed its cruel sense of humor. She caught sight of Ken with another girl, arms entwined, standing too close for friendship. Her stomach turned. For hours, Daisy debated telling Mary, torn between truth and heartbreak. In the end, she confronted Ken herself, her voice firm with warning. "Leave her alone if you can't love her right," she said. "But snakes don't stop slithering because you ask them to." Within weeks, rumors spread like wildfire. Ken had gotten another girl pregnant. When the news reached Mary, her world crumbled. The love she thought eternal became her deepest wound. For days, she didn't eat. For weeks, she barely spoke. But Daisy stayed, cooking, cleaning, whispering hope where despair had taken root. Slowly, Mary began to smile again. One evening, she threw Ken's things out of her room and said quietly, "He no longer lives here." Daisy hugged her tightly, proud of her courage, knowing pain had made her stronger. Time healed, as it always does. Then one night, under the golden glow of a campus party, their laughter returned. Music pulsed through the air, and the two best friends looked radiant. Mary, in a royal blue dress, Daisy, in red. Her curls danced as she moved. From across the room, Mary noticed a handsome man sitting in the corner, eyes fixed on Daisy like she was the only person in the world. She nudged her friend, whispering, "Someone can't stop staring at you." Before Daisy could turn, he was already behind her. His name was Conrad. Warm smile, calm voice, the kind of presence that drew people in without trying. Mary excused herself, grinning as she watched something beautiful begin. From that night, Daisy and Conrad were inseparable. He wasn't rich, but he was ambitious, kind, and attentive. He'd bring her flowers, take her to dinner, and surprise her with lunch. Still, she never forgot Mary. Many of their dates became three-person adventures, with Mary tagging along despite her protests. Conrad didn't mind. In fact, he admired their closeness, often saying, "Good friends like this don't happen twice." Mary would laugh, unaware that fate was once again watching from the shadow, waiting for the day it could test the strength of their sisterhood. Life after university unfolded like a sunrise full of promise. Mary and Daisy both found city jobs, Daisy in marketing, Mary as a financial analyst in a nearby bank. Their schedules were demanding, but they made time for Sunday brunch and late calls. Daisy's relationship with Conrad became stable and comfortable. He was a junior architect with a modest apartment, and together they made plans for the future. Everything seemed perfect. Then, one day, a co-worker whispered to Daisy, planting doubt, "I saw Mary and your man at a cafe downtown," she said, voice dripping with gossip. "They looked cozy." Daisy laughed it off. "Mary would never hurt me," she said, "and Conrad isn't that kind of man." But the co-worker smirked. "You never really know, Daisy. People get jealous when they see something they want." The words lingered like smoke in Daisy's mind. She tried to trust her friend and Conrad, but curiosity can gnaw at even the strongest heart. In the following weeks, Daisy began to notice small things she couldn't ignore. Conrad mentioning Mary's name often, Mary laughing a little too freely when he was around, and the comfortable silence between them that seemed to need no explanation. The friendship that had once been unshakable began to feel fragile under the weight of suspicion. Finally, one afternoon, Daisy decided to confront Mary. "Mary," she began hesitantly, "I just need to ask you something. Are you getting close to Conrad?" Mary's eyes widened, a flicker of hurt crossing her face. "Are you serious?" she said softly, her voice steady but trembling beneath the calm. "I'm very disappointed in you, Daisy. You, of all people, should know me better than that." Daisy's heart sank. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I wasn't accusing you. I just needed to ask. People have been saying things." Mary sighed, her disappointment clear. "If you're uncomfortable, I'll step back. I won't come around you both as often." True to her word, Mary distanced herself. When Conrad asked, Daisy told him she was dealing with family matters, unwilling to admit the truth. But guilt soon began to gnaw at her, leaving her uneasy with her own mistrust. Weeks later, Daisy fell ill and stayed home from work. Words reached Mary, and despite the awkwardness between them, she showed up at Daisy's apartment with homemade soup, medicine, and her familiar gentle smile. "You shouldn't have come," Daisy murmured weakly, but her eyes softened with gratitude. They sat together in the quiet living room, the air heavy with unspoken apologies. A short while later, the doorbell rang. Conrad. He looked surprised to see Mary, but smiled politely. Mary instantly felt uncomfortable, her fingers tightening around her handbag. "I should get going," she said, standing up. But Daisy reached out and pleaded, "Please stay, just for a little while." So she did. As the three sat and talked, laughter began to fill the room again. Cautious at first, then genuine. Daisy watched them, realizing how wrong she had been to doubt the two people she loved the most. When she excused herself to the restroom, Mary and Conrad continued chatting about work, about life, but never about what had happened. They just shared quiet jokes and kind smiled until the evening faded into calm. By the time Mary left, Daisy's heart felt lighter. The poison of mistrust had begun to fade, though neither of them knew that sometimes trust once cracked, never fully healed. It only waits for the next tremor to test its strength. Months slipped by after that evening at Daisy's house, and life slowly regained its rhythm, or at least a version of it. The laughter between the two friends began to sound natural again, though something invisible still lingered in the air, like a shadow that refused to fade. Mary resumed joining Daisy and Conrad on outings, movies, dinners, even the occasional party. Though she remained cautious, she couldn't hide the warmth she still felt for their friendship. One night, at a small get-together hosted by a mutual friend, the music filled the room with a beat too tempting to ignore. Conrad, ever the playful spirit, turned to Mary and grinned. "Come on, Mary, shake what your mama gave ya," he teased, earning a burst of laughter from everyone nearby. Daisy chuckled, waving her hand dismissively. "Go ahead," she said. "You know I'm not a good dancer." It was innocent, just friends having fun. But as Conrad spun Mary around, their laughter echoed across the room, light and effortless. For the first time, Daisy felt a pang she couldn't explain. The sight of them laughing together, lost in the music, stirred old insecurities she thought she had buried. She told herself not to overthink it, that it was harmless, but the unease clung to her like a cold wind, whispering doubts she didn't want to hear. The following weekend, Daisy decided to spend the night at Conrad's place. It was cozy and quiet, the kind of morning where love should have felt simple. She woke early to make him breakfast, humming softly as she fried eggs and brewed his favorite coffee. Conrad, thinking she was still in the kitchen, took the moment to make a phone call, one that wasn't meant for Daisy's ears. Balancing the breakfast tray, Daisy walked toward the bedroom door, just in time to hear his voice through the half-open door. "Mary, is everything set?" he said quietly. Her heart froze. The spoon slipped from the tray and clattered to the floor, startling him. "Gotta go," Conrad said quickly, ending the call. Daisy forced a smile, pushing open the door. "Surprise!" she said cheerfully, pretending she'd heard nothing. "Breakfast in bed for my favorite man." But inside, her mind raced with questions. Why was he calling Mary? Why did he hide it? Later at work, her nosy co-worker noticed her distracted gaze and pressed for details. But Daisy just smiled faintly and said, "It's nothing." Yet deep down, she knew that something had shifted again. And this time, the storm might not pass so easily. The sun had barely dipped below the horizon when Daisy's phone buzzed relentlessly. It was her co-worker, again, the same one who had sown the first seed of doubt. This time, she sent pictures, then videos. Conrad and Mary were out together, laughing as they shopped from store to store. In one clip, Mary held up a dress, and Conrad nodded approvingly. In another, he playfully placed the hat on her head while she laughed. Daisy's heart clenched in disbelief. So this is what they've been doing all day, she muttered bitterly. Her vision blurred as rage clouded reason. That night, she drove straight to Conrad's house, her pulse pounding with fury. Just as she arrived, she saw Mary stepping out with shopping bags, loading them into her car. That image shattered what little calm Daisy had left. Her breath came in sharp bursts as she gripped the steering wheel. "This ends tonight," she whispered, starting the engine. She followed Mary through the winding roads, her headlight cutting through the darkness like vengeance itself. But Mary noticed. The chase grew wild, engines roaring, tires screeching until they reached the old bridge. Daisy caught up, rage overtaking reason, and rammed Mary's car hard enough to send it spinning. Within seconds, it veered over the edge, crashing into the black river below. Daisy froze, trembling, before speeding off into the night. At home, she parked in her garage and covered the car, her heart hammering as guilt began to whisper beneath her breath. Meanwhile, Conrad sat at home, puzzled by Mary's sudden silence. He called her phone several times, each ring echoing into emptiness. "It's been 2 hours, he murmured. "I'll try again in the morning." The next day, on his way to work, he noticed flashing lights and traffic around the bridge but didn't stop. He muttered a brief prayer and kept driving. Later that afternoon, as he carried his lunch tray, the news flashed across the screen in the cafeteria. Car pulled from the river, victim identified as Miriam Etiko. The tray slipped from his hands and shattered on the floor. He stood frozen, disbelief gripping his chest. "Mary?" he whispered, his voice breaking. What was she doing there? She lived miles away from that bridge. Fear and confusion tangled in his mind as he rushed outside to call Daisy. She answered, and when he broke the news, her scream pierced the line, sharp, raw, convincing. That evening after work, Conrad drove straight to her house, expecting grief, tears, something human. But what he found froze him more than the news itself. Daisy sat on the couch, watching TV, laughing. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he shouted. "Your best friend is dead and you're laughing?" Daisy looked at him calmly. "Everyone mourns differently," she said. Conrad stared at her, appalled. "Have you called her parents? How are they doing?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I don't know," Daisy replied coldly. "I haven't reached out yet." He sank into the couch, burying his face in his hands. "This is all my fault," he muttered. Daisy frowned. "What are you talking about?" He lifted his head slowly, his eyes glassy with regret. "I called her yesterday to help me shop for your birthday and your engagement party." Daisy froze. "What?" he continued, voice cracking. "We spent the whole day planning. She picked a ring, said nothing was too good for her best friend. She even gave me money to help buy it. She was so excited, Daisy. I just don't understand what she was doing on that side of town." Daisy's heart sank as her mind replayed the night. The shopping bags, the chase, the crash. "Where are the things you bought?" she asked weakly. "She was taking them home until the night of the party," Conrad said, staring at her in disbelief. "Are you seriously still thinking about the party?" he asked, anger flashing. "You just lost your best friend, for crying out loud." He stormed out, leaving Daisy alone. Only then did the reality of her actions crush her spirit. She wept bitterly, whispering, "What have I done?" But her tears wouldn't wash away what came next. Surveillance footage from the bridge surfaced. Daisy's car in plain sight, ramming into Mary's vehicle. Police soon arrested her. When Conrad saw the footage, he cried silently, whispering, "How could you, Daisy?" He never spoke to her again. After Mary's funeral, He sold the recovered engagement ring and gave the money to her parents. Then he left town, changing his number forever. And behind prison walls, Daisy was left with only her memories, her guilt, and the haunting truth that jealousy had stolen the one person who truly loved her. The lesson to be learned from this story is that jealousy is a quiet poison that begins in the heart long before it shows in our actions. It blinds us to truth, twists love into suspicion, and turns friendship into rivalry. Daisy allowed whispers and assumptions to cloud her trust in the one person who had stood by her since childhood. In doing so, she destroyed not only her best friend's life, but also her own peace and future. This story reminds us that true friendship built on trust, not fear, and that when we let envy guide our emotions, we lose sight of love, reason, and ourselves. Always seek understanding before judgment, because one moment of anger can erase a lifetime of loyalty. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African tales. And turn on your notification bell so you'll be informed each time I upload a new story. Thanks again for being here with me, and I'll see you on the next one. Be blessed.
Jamaican storyteller, and the stories them lit. And there's always a twist, African, Jamaican, and Caribbean tales. Morals, lessons, and they never fail. I know this might sound crazy. Tales by Shanse is my baby.